He King James had gathered 50 scribes to write this version, using people who were politicians, Puritans, adventurers, priests, preachers, drunks, and bishops. He divided them up into 6 subcommittees, which he called companies, because he wanted the Bible to resemble a company like the trading companies that were being traded on the stock market. But he wanted written about God instead of the world. So it was based on the world, but it was written about God using ecclesiastical words. But he had certain strict rules to follow as they transcribed it or whatever. And the most he wanted it to follow was the official bishop's Bible, which I talked about, that was written by Pope Damascus. Well, it was ordered by Pope Damascus, translated by Jerome, using sense for sense instead of word for word of the Bible. Okay. That book was published 1611 with inaccuracies because the printing press that was invented, they had put the words in wrong or something. And one of the examples was in one of the commandments, it said, "Thou shalt commit adultery." So once that got out, that was called the Wicked Bible. And so they didn't get a chance to go back and fix it. The Civil War broke out amongst the people. The Puritans in Parliament had arguments, and then the bishops and kings had parliaments. So then a few of the Puritans had left the Americas, joining the Pilgrims. Charles I, King James's son, was beheaded, and England became a republic. So the original book was left gathering dust. The printed book was considered wicked. So the end of the Civil War returned, and the original version of King James by this time began getting printed. In America, they loved the language of the book. It was aesthetic to their lives. They loved the way it was written and it flowed. The Puritans had a mixed version of the Bible until Jonathan Edwards noticed a connection with his congregation, and he called it an awakening. Now, the King James Version, the first 5 books of it contained the first 5 books of Moses in the beginning, like most of them do, just like the Talmud. The Talmud does contain the first 5 books of Moses, but it also has scribes adding about oral stories in the book. The Torah is the same way. And then, Thomas Jefferson had his Bible rewritten for his view. And that's one of the reasons I only deal with the Pentateuch, the first 5 books, Laws of Moses, because the Bible, the King James Version, is written Roman Catholic rituals, and it's a mixture of paganism and Christianity. So I can't follow it. So I just have to do the first 5 books of the Bible. That's it. Now I'm gonna give you a little definition of how this all started before we get to that, because the Bible is basically based on the 4 Gospels, and then stuff is added to it, that they added to the scribes and stuff. Now, the first 5 books of Moses is supposed to be true to form, but the rest of that is supposed to be based on the Gospels, and the Gospels are 4 books that are different views for different people to understand the life of Jesus and what happened. Okay. The SYRIAC translation is the American translation of the New Testament. The Antioch and Jerusalem were the first centers of Christianity. the Pentaeus from Syria in 180 AD, took the Gospels to India. Apostle Bartholomew left the Gospel of Matthew before the Gospels went to Pentaeus. Excuse me. The Old Testament was already translated to the SYRIAC in Titan's work called the DIATESSARON. It was the harmony of the four Gospels. Titan's work from the observance of a group of ascetics in Mesopotamia. So how Titan was able to write this? He observed a group of people from Mesopotamia and began writing about their lives. Okay. In the 5th century, Bishop of Edessa, Wibula, established the SYRIAC, PESHITTA. And then THEODOREAU, Bishop of Cyrus, near the Euphrates, collected and removed the Titan's harmony and the DIATSSARON and replaced them with the four separate Gospels. Now you have the Coptic language of Egypt, and that language is Greek, and it comes from Alexander the Great. And then the language of Aramaic is from the armies of Islam. Now, in Egypt, there are two dialects. The Upper Egypt was SAHIDIC, and that is basically Ham in the language they spoke. And then you have the Semitic, which is Shem, which is his brother, in the language they spoke. And then the lower part of Egypt is BOHIRIC, and that was never considered a language. It was just the way people pronounce things. But I would think that if you got Ham's language, you got Shem's language, you got Ham's language, I would think that would be Japhetiah's language. Anyway, it turned into the Demotic, which they call Greek, which formed the Coptic language, which all derive from the HIEROGLYPHIC script. Although the family spoke different languages, they all used the same alphabet. So what they had was the HIEROGLYPHIC script, which is a pictographic script, basically symbols, which are recognizable pictures of things representative. So when they couldn't communicate with each other, they drew pictures and they communicate that way. So I hope that helps.